I was a senior that year, and I guess I was sort of prepared for this storm because my mother was just frightened of storms, and I think when you're reared that way, why, you are more or less anxious about storm, and I knew that continue. I was in the second floor of the assembly hall. It seated about 250. I think her name was Louise Atkins from Anna, was our home teacher. And we, as this rumbling continued, the sky began to get greenish black. And we had cloth shades on the south side, and they began to flop. And we had swinging doors on the south end and on the west end and on the east end into this assembly hall. And there was narrow halls that led from that to connect with the new buildings. I was sitting 4 or 5 seats from the east entrance to this hall, several rows over. Well, it got so bad that I became so frightened, I got up out of my seat. I was about the third one to get up out of my seat. And the teacher sounded the gavel and wanted us to sit back down. And wouldn't you know, I forgot a book and a compact on my desk, and I went back for that. Had I not gone back for that, I would have gotten out and not been so crowded. But the last thing I remembered was walking through those swinging doors, and I saw Bernard Shuley, who was killed. And he was the last person I remember seeing, because then it got dark. And then that's the last I remembered, because the wall caved in and I was buried, and I think I must have been out for a few seconds or something like that. And I was, my eye was resting on the corner of a brick. And then, of course, I was all covered, and my mouth was pried open, and the sand and gravel and everything, see, it rained very hard, was trickling down into my mouth, and I thought, oh my, I'm going to choke. Then close by, I heard this girl praying. Oh, she was praying. And I can't tell you how many minutes we were buried. This seemed a long time, but they were walking on us, you know, and they were grinding these rocks, bricks. So finally we were rescued, and I never ever recall going to it seems like I remember going to the cafeteria. They told us to or something. And then I thought of home. Well, fortunately, we lived east of town, way out in the country. So I started climbing over the debris, and these hot wires just sparking. I don't know why there weren't so many people killed like that, and perhaps there were. I heard such a terrible loud clash of thunder. And then I went upstairs, and I told the lady I was working for, I said, oh, Mrs. Whirlwind, there's a storm coming. I just saw that house go over on the hill. And we was taking care of her son's baby. The mother had died when the baby was born. So the baby was asleep on her bed. Well, she went and threw herself over the baby, and that's what saved her and the baby. And I went into my bedroom, which was in the door next to her bedroom. And, of course, they found me between the sidewalk and the highway. And then they took me to the hospital. I had my leg crushed badly. And the next day, they amputated it. And then that following Sunday, they sent me with, I think, 53 other patients to Barnes Hospital in St. Louis. And I was there for 5.5 weeks.
I was engaged to the principal at Lincoln School, and I was teaching at Washington School. I was the second grade teacher. Recess had just been, and the pupils were all seated in the room in the second grade. A terrible light showed at the blackboard, at the top of the blackboard, and we were getting ready to study spelling. All at once, the windows came in. We had no warning at all that a tornado was coming. We didn't have a television, or we didn't have a radio at school then. And the children ran from the room, and joined the children from upstairs who came down with their teachers. We all went to the basement. One of the little boys grabbed me around the waist and he says, "Miss Maja, please take me to my mother." He later became an officer in Uncle Sam's Navy. If I'd come even 2 or 3 minutes earlier, it would have caught all of our children and a number of the teachers out on the playground. Thank the Lord, we were inside. It took 60 windows out of Washington School. It took the roof.
All over with, we come home. I remember power lines just snapping, spark, houses burning, a lot of debris on the streets, everything. But we finally got home. All we had was a subfloor of a house. Looked like the carpenter just quit working and that we all had subfloor. And that's about all I do remember. A few days later, I remember the soup kitchens they had here in town. The National Guard runner, the doc medics and everybody, they was here. Then we moved from after that. Well, we went to my grandparents' house out in the country, and Red Cross had a big tent put up. All our family lived in it.
Wasn't 2 sticks in our house left. When we got there, it was gone. House was gone, and my granddaddy, he was watching the storm, say, on the back porch, and directly when he seen that big funnel, well, he hollered for my mother, and grandmother, and little baby sister, is to get in the cellar. They had dug a cellar where they kept their vegetables and stuff, and they just barely got in that cellar when that happened. And that night, what's outstanding was that night was it looked like from back there it was real dark, and I can remember the streaks of lightning that was going across the skies. And it looked like the whole town of Murphysboro was on fire.